Need to say just a word about that anniversary. Tuesday, that will be 59 years, which for many in this class is just a few minutes. Some of y'all been married a long time. We're still working on it. It's worse shape today than it's been in a while because she left me to go to Colorado this morning, about 7 o'clock. And we had some drama that went on after that. And we'll try to work our way around that and get on with class. It was kind of an interesting thing when they called. He wanted me to do two things: relationships, friendships, and the other one is gratitude. And it's almost like that was, oh, well, that was fixed just for me. I want to be serious for just a minute because I'm going to spend some time not being too serious. We'll see how it goes. I count myself one of the luckiest people that ever lived because of friendships. I have lived a long time. I'm older than almost everybody you know. And I've had some wonderful relationships. And I'm going to talk today about what they've done for me, what you wouldn't have, in this guardrail business. Let me continue to be serious for just a second. My opinion is that the very finest guardrail that is available to Christian folk is a good marriage. If you've got a partner that you get along with well for a long time and have a successful marriage, that gives you the best chance of keeping it out of the ditch. We've talked about the guardrail being to keep us in the middle of the road and out of the ditch, and so be it. And I count myself very lucky there. In my early years, I worked real hard to mess up my love life forever, but I failed. And then finally I met Judy, and we got married, and here we are all this time later. And I need to tell you, I'm grateful for that. And one other little commercial thing. I'm going to tell a lot of stories this morning. When you tell stories, you always run the risk of being the hero of your own story. I dread that. So let me say, if you hear me being the hero of my own stories, you're hearing me wrong. I count myself a recipient of these friendships and the things I'm going to pull out of them. And I hope that you'll grant me the license to do that, because I went on a speaking trip years ago with William Bonoski, who was the president of OU at the time. And we talked about everything, church stuff and everything else. And he said, James, I need to confess to you that I have spent most of my life avoiding boredom. I said, what are you talking about? Most of us spend our lives trying to keep our head above the water. We're trying to do well enough to just get by. And here you are worried because you haven't got anything to do. Well, I've had these friends, and I'm going to tell these stories. So please, let me say again and again, I am the hero of these stories. I am the recipient of a whole lot of great stuff. This is often stuff that happened to me. That's the stuff I know about. So here we go. The first story that I want to tell and draw a guardrail from it is my grandma. When I was a public speaker doing family seminars, my Sunday night speech was always, I wish you knew my grandma. That is my mother's mother, not grandmother. The preacher who introduced me always wanted to say, I wish you knew my grandmother. No. She would have had no idea who we talked about. She was grandma. They were sharecroppers in south central East Oklahoma. They were not rich. My granddad, his dad died when he was in the second grade. He had to drop out of school and help him not starve to death. And he married her, and they had a whole bunch of kids and an interesting life. My grandma lived a life of drudgery. Monday was wash day. they took that big old black pot and built a big fire under it and boiled the clothes. I don't know if you needed to do that or not, but that's what they did. And then rubbed them on a washboard, and that took all day. And besides all that, there were the chores and the farming and all that other stuff to do. And my grandma liked to say, the day your mother was born, I picked peas in the morning and had a baby in the afternoon. And that's right. When I think about how they lived, the work that they had to do just to get through the day, I'm just kind of overwhelmed, and my conclusion is I don't think I could have made it. I have real serious doubts about whether I would have had enough year to get through all that. My granddad got too old to farm, so she raised white leghorn chickens and sold eggs. They were giant eggs. She babied those chickens like they were her own kids. She washed their dishes every day and put in fresh food and water. And the produce house where she sold the eggs said, Miss Barnes, we really like to buy your eggs. They're so good, we can keep them until in the winter when they get expensive. And that's what she did. She worked like a dog from daylight to dark and on beyond. She had lots of health problems. When she was a girl, they were killing hogs. Some of you are old enough to know about killing hogs. They would raise the hog up on a pulley, dip it in the boiling water so they could scrape it. The guys dropped one on her leg. So she was virtually crippled for the rest of her life, which was a long time. And she had a hard life, but I need to say two important things about her. In 1947, when my parents were acting like hooligans and just nutty as a fruit, they could have got a divorce for a while. In my life, what I needed was somebody that was sane, somebody that acted like a grown-up and handled things and did what they needed to be doing. I was 9 years old, and she did that for me. She was the person that was sane for me to look at and hold on to. But the main thing I want to say about her at this point for the guardrail is, be cheerful anyway. My grandma loved to laugh. She loved to laugh at everybody, particularly me. Everything that happened was funny to her. She enjoyed herself. She had a kind of a cackle laugh, kind of a, she was cheerful. She was the cheerful person amidst a whole lot of stuff that wasn't cheerful. Is that useful in the Christian life? Can that help us keep it out of the ditch? When do people make bad decisions? Well, when they're not feeling very good, and especially if they're focusing on that, is that they may not make good decisions and stay right in the middle. But I look back on her and all that she did with great pleasure. I like to have a good time. Me talking about these friends and the stuff that keeps us out of the ditch, these friends did a lot for me, but mostly I just enjoyed the heck out of it. I had a great time with them and lots of others. And so I say to you, I wish you knew my grandma. If she had heard me say that, she would have been embarrassed to death. She lived in a little old town and was not anybody important. But for me to talk like that would just embarrass her to tears. She only had one chance to hear it, and that's the day I did her funeral. I don't know if she was able to hear it or not, but I said, I wish you knew my grandma. I wish you did. You'd be a happier person if you knew her. Okay, number 2. I'm going to talk about Phil. Phil is somebody you all know, some of you real well. He was the preacher of this church years ago for a while. From what was he to me? In 1963, I was a kid preacher in a little church in Texas. I had spent several years getting ready to be a preacher because I thought that's what I wanted to do with my life. And within 3 weeks, I recognized I'd made a mistake. Now, I enjoy preaching. Everybody likes to hear their own voice. I like to get up and talk, but I recognize that that thing of getting up every day with the fire in my belly, to convince people to see things my way and do what I want them to, that wasn't me. It wasn't me then, and it isn't me now. Phil called me in Texas and said, come up and see me. I want to talk to you about going to work for me. He rescued me, hired me to be a recruiter for Oklahoma Christian College. That may not sound like a giant promotion to you, but it was to me. Because all of a sudden, I had something that I had to do or else, and somebody to do it with. A lot of you all knew Phil, he was his own kind of person. I would describe him as a mover and a shaker. He and I hardly ever agreed about anything. He was real conservative politically, and I was real liberal. He was from Arkansas, and he was for their football team and thought they were just one touchdown away from being national champions, and I knew better because I was pro U. He just could not get that straight, though. U was a better place than Arkansas, et cetera, et cetera. We got really close. I thought that he was going to be the next president of Oklahoma Christian, and I was going to be his right-hand man. That didn't happen to him, didn't happen to me. Worked out okay for both of us, but that didn't happen. What I want to say about him and this guardrail business is I learned more from him about the faith, about life, about the meaning of things, about pleasure, and everything else than anybody I ever knew. I said that at his funeral. I learned more from Phil than anybody else. I want to focus on one thing that I learned, and I don't know, I haven't said this a lot. I may not say it well now, but let me try. I said that my ancestors and folks were all sharecroppers. They weren't wealthy. They were intelligent. And they managed to send kids to go to college and become school teachers and all that. But what they really were intelligent about was understanding the limits of life, what couldn't be done. Whenever somebody would start a new business, they would say, well, that can't go, because you don't have to do that. No way that's going to work. So that was me. I was a smart person at perceiving what could not be done. And then I met Phil. He didn't know that. He didn't know that things couldn't be done. He thought things could be done. And he did them. He did things that just won't be to tell. He beat a long-term politician who was one of the main politicians in Oklahoma. Killed him. What? What I learned from him was it can be done. Now that was a fundamental change. That was a teetotal sway from where I had been to where I got. And I credit him with that. He was a mover and a shaker, and he said this, that if you pray hard enough and work hard enough, almost anything can happen. He made me believe that, and I believe it now. We worry about churches that are not growing. When Phil got involved with the church that wasn't growing, that was just an opportunity for him. That wasn't a problem. And that's how he did everything. So, guardrail, get away from that. Get away from that holding by your fingernails. That is not the nature of things. It can be done. You pray enough and work hard enough, it can be done. I want to recommend that to you. I want to recommend that as a way to think and a way to live. Number 3, Paul. Paul was a member at Quail Springs. His business was a used car lot. Do you know how tough that is? It's just the thought of it gives me the shivers. Paul was a hard, strong, tough, opinionated man. He thought he saw it right and would tell you that he thought he saw it right. Why is that important for me? He was a confessed and professed recovering alcoholic. When I first got acquainted with him, it had been about 25 years, I think. Hadn't had a drink in 25 years, but he described his life before he did that. And his wife agreed. He was a hard nose. He was hard to get along with. He was hard to deal with. Life wasn't very pleasant to be involved with him. And then he woke up and quit drinking and ran that unit. Why is that important to me? About that time, I started being a counselor. And in counseling, according to psychological theory of today, you are not supposed to impose your values on somebody else. You're supposed to help them achieve what they have selected. There were people who came to see me who were alcoholics. It usually took me about 15 minutes to tell that. They would always cover that up very carefully. They were very, very cautious not to say anything about drinking, because somebody might think you're an alcoholic, and I'm way past that. I'm way ahead of them. The worst cussings I ever got was from alcoholics who decided that I wasn't even a real person and they needed to give me a good cussing and stomped out of the office. Trust me, they did that. What I found out in trying to work with alcoholics is that I made it worse. If I made them feel better, what it did was make them feel better so they could go drink. They would decide to quit and they would go by the bar on the way to get warmed up so they could quit. Go get drunk so they could quit drinking. Paul had a different slant on that. His deal was, the way you quit drinking is to quit drinking. And he was hard about that. There wasn't any wobble. There wasn't any opinions here and there about, well, maybe it'd be okay if I drink a little bit of it. No. If you have a problem with alcohol, the way to get over it is to quit it. Do not do it. And he said that in no uncertain terms. All over Oklahoma City today, there are people who woke up without a headache and a hangover, and they haven't had a drink in years because they knew Paul. I counted a blessing that I knew him and that he put that into my thinking that sometimes there is no wobble. There is no maybe. There is no gray area. It either is like that or it isn't. And if you want to quit drinking, you quit drinking. Let me just do one little thing about that with some friends of mine in the ministry. Some of my friends in the ministry, and I've got hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know how many, would do some counseling. Somebody would come into them and say, I need to do some counseling. They didn't know that was a really bad thing to do. We talk in the counseling business about transference. What that means is that there are feelings that pass from the client to the therapist, countertransference is from the therapist to the client, that feel very much like being in love. If you get really close and share the things of life that matter a whole lot, that's a lot like being in love. And I've had several friends who got to doing that and wound up leaving their wife and going off with whoever it was they were counseling with, because they had no business doing it. They didn't know what they were doing. They were misinterpreting things and just ruined their whole life. One guy in particular here in Oklahoma City, minister of a big church, did that and came to talk to me about it. Said, I know now that I shouldn't have been doing that because I was playing with fire. And I hear Paul say, don't do that. I've said to a lot of preachers, quit that. if you had appendicitis, would you go talk to the preacher? I don't think so. You go talk to some surgeon who can take care of that. So don't be doing that. I'm grateful to Paul for that, and I'm grateful about those people that I couldn't help, and he could. And I know those guys waking up this morning without a hangover are thankful, and they would say, "That's a pretty good Guardrail. I made up my mind not to drink, and I'm still doing it. And bless their heart, I'm happy for it." I want to talk about Bill. Bill was my junior college roommate. He had the perfect body. He was 6'2" and weighed 210 pounds. He had hands like hands, great, huge hands, and he could throw things farther than you could see. When we all showed up at school, we all brought our egos with us because we all were athletes, you know, and we could do just about anything. So we'd get out behind the post office and play catch, pitch and catch. He had just been playing Little American Legion ball that summer, won 15 games. What have you got? Just a fastball. Oh, well, no, sure, fastball. Listen, when you play catch with him, you better be quick or you're going to get hurt. He would throw that ball through you. I believe that I saw him several times throw a football, not necessarily an NFL football, like some cheap version of it, 80 yards. He could do things that human beings can't do. He was 6'2" by 210 and German. He had big muscles and beautiful skin, and all the women were crazy about him, which I resented. We got really close. We drove school buses together, and we did everything else. We double dated. I was going with a particular woman, and he was, and he eventually married the one that he was going with, and I didn't, for my benefit. And I've been married to this other woman for most of 59 years. We were really close, and he taught me the one thing that I want to talk about for just a second. When it's time for us to go, he said, "Jim, if boys love boys, I love you." Now that wasn't anything. Don't hear anything there except we were real pals. Of a Saturday, it was time for us to go home. We weren't going to be together anymore. That didn't mean I wasn't going to see them anymore because I was going to do their wedding in September. That was in May. But that was the end of our relationship as far as being close. And when it was time to get in the car and go, and there was nothing left to do except a hug, he hugged me so hard that it tore my shirt to shreds. When I got in the car, my dad said, "What happened to your shirt, boy?" I said, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." I've told that story a zillion times. I told that story in Dallas years ago, and a woman came up to me and said, "I'm his daughter." She knew about that. I want to focus on one aspect about him. He had what the sportscasters like to call the motor. That means that he could wind it up and wind it up and wind it up and do superhuman things. He played basketball. Darden Peck was the coach. I'm going to talk about him later. He wasn't a very good coach. He's a great person. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. We were going to play some school from the Northeast. I won't call her name because that wouldn't be very nice. Who had an All-American player on their team. He was well known, and I believe that he went on from college to be a punter in the NFL. This guy was a serious athlete and a great basketball player. So what we told Bill as the game approached, you're going to get eat up. He's going to eat you alive. He's going to throw you outside. you'll never be able to play again after he gets through with you. I could tell that he was kind of winding things up. As we would kid him like that, he didn't take to that very well. Finally, it came time for that ball game, and my memory is that he made 26 points and that other guy made 4. It looked like a wolf attacking a kitten. He ate him alive. He ran him down. He just destroyed him. And finally, in the fourth quarter, that other coach took the guy out there to be merciful. Took mercy on him and took him out. What's my point from all that? Everybody in here does have, has had, will have situations that are too hard. Talking about all that anniversary stuff, we've had so many losses in this class, I almost can't stand to think about it. My heart goes out to all of you that have lost wonderful partners. That just carries me off. There will be those emergencies. They may be financial, or may be emotional, or whatever else, physical health or whatever. But all of us have way more ability to turn that motor on than we know. Seeing him do that said to me, you may have to do that. Working for a church, I found out that's right. That you never know what may happen. But when you try to turn something, it won't turn. And you try to turn it and it won't turn. And you try to turn it and it won't turn. And then you really turn it. And it turns. That's when you turn that motor on. We've got that. We've got way more than that we know. And aren't we grateful for that? I want to talk about Bobby. Bobby was a baseball player, Bobby Mercer. I didn't know him when he was a player. He had retired by the time Judy and I got acquainted with him and his wife, to our delight. I taught that big old outlaw Sunday school class at Cail for 25 years, and they were in that class, and we did all kinds of things together, lots of golfing and all that. When he got sick, brain cancer, it devastated a lot of us. The New York Yankees came to the funeral. The New York Yankees came to the funeral. I suspect that he may have been the most famous person that I've ever had anything to do with. And it was always a big surprise that he wanted to go to lunch with me. But we went to meals, we did all kinds of things together. And he never, ever, as far as I remember, finished a meal without somebody interrupting. It might be an adult coming through, I saw you play and I want to say something about this, that, here. Or it might be a kid wanting an autograph. Somebody might have a ball. I wanted to get him to sign it or whatever. He liked his food hot. He really, when he ate at our house, he always wanted to take it right off the stove and put it on the plate. But he never did get to eat like that in public, because there were always people interrupting. He never, ever was anything except absolutely kind. He smiled, he talked, he approved of them, he learned about them. So I want to say to us, are we kind? When we talk on the phone, the people perceive when they hear us talk, I believe they're interested in me, care about me, and want good things to happen to me. I like to think of that about myself, except my grandkids like to say, "Are you mad?" No, I'm not mad. Now, Jenny says, "You look mad." I'm sorry, but God did this, I didn't. You heard me talk about that when I look in the mirror and I say, "Why'd you make me look like this?" He doesn't answer, of course, but I think the answer is because I thought that was the best thing for you. You could have made me 6'4", blonde head, perfect teeth, lots of hair, big muscles and all that kind of stuff. And again, he didn't say anything, but I think the answer is, I didn't think you could handle it. Well, my answer is, I'd like to try it. Story true about Bobby. I get a call from the church secretary on a summer day. Secretary for this church, one of them. You know Bobby Murphy, yeah, pretty proud of him. This woman from New York called, and she wants to send him a box of M&Ms that she has made personally for him. Put his name on M&Ms. What? His own M&Ms? It's one thing to have honors, but your own M&Ms? Yeah, we need his address so we can send them. No, don't do that, because he and his wife are gone. Send them to me. And I'll give them to him when he gets back, because if you put them on his porch, they're going to melt. It'll just be a pool of chocolate when he gets back. So that's what we did. I gave them to him, and he said, "Did you eat some of them?" No. You don't eat somebody else's M&Ms. That wouldn't do. But that's that woman's heart. When Bobby got sick and died, she called me. She needed somebody to reassure her that the world wasn't over. She loved Bobby Mercer, even though she never met him. About that, he liked to play golf, though he hated golf. But he liked to play golf with me and Ronnie, and I'm going to say some stuff about Ronnie in a minute. In 1988, the Quail Creek Golf Course held a tournament for the senior professionals. And they gave OCC a place in the Pro-Am for 2 days. And nobody out there played golf then but me. So I got to do it. I had one good day and one real bad day. The good day wasn't all that good because the pro didn't like me. He asked me, "Are you a golf chiseler?" Well, sometimes, but no, I'm not a golf chiseler. Bobby and his wife lived right on the edge of the golf course by Quail Creek. While I was playing, he and his friend Jim Hart, who was the quarterback for the St. Louis Cardinals, eventually to Arizona, came and walked with me for a while as I'm playing in this Pro-Am tournament. My pro was being caddied for by his wife, who on a cart. She drove the cart. Well, after they turned off there and left, and she said, "Who was that guy that was talking to you as you were walking along?" And I said, "Dad, that was Bobby Mercer, the old baseball player." "Oh no, he's one of my favorite people in the world. Why didn't you introduce me?" Golf pros need to be left alone. They don't want to talk while they're playing. They don't want you. He said, "Well, and who's that other guy?" "That was Jim Hart, the quarterback." "Well, he's my other mate, Frank. I love him too. You didn't help me at all." That was not a good day for me in that golf pro and his wife. But kindness. The interesting thing about kindness is it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to make a lot of preparation or whatever. If you just habitually are kind, well, that's going to be all right, and you're going to feel better too. I need to talk about Darwin a little bit. I'm going to run out of time here. Shall we just stay here a minute? No, maybe not. Y'all knew Darwin. He was in this class. You didn't know him, though, like I knew him, because he was already bunged up and walked with a walker and never said anything. And I asked him along, "Do you ever talk to the elders?" Because he was a 30-year elder. No, they're doing fine. They don't need my help. Which I thought I was going to say. No, they don't need your help. You had your turn. You leave them be. Darwin started teaching at Oklahoma Central Christian College the day I became a student in 1956. and spent his whole life doing that. He did everything. He was a baseball coach, he was a basketball coach, he was a recruiter, he was a money raiser. He taught classes in other areas besides his home. He did everything. Some of them he did well and some he didn't. I want to focus on two that he did extremely well. For one thing, he was a good friend of mine. We spent a lot of time together. I hear myself echo.
It's the Lord talking to you.
What we do with people who hear God talking to them, we sing to sing. Oh, that's me. Okay, okay. That's all right. Darwin had the best singing voice ever. Now, he had not been trained in how to sing, where you hold your mouth a certain way and talk. He did this, which made it sound kind of funny. But of all the people I ever knew, he had the sweetest singing voice. One thing he did extremely well, he put together a science curriculum and faculty that had a great record. You all know my daughter Mindy, the one person in the world who can talk to me and me not fuss at her, the one person in the world besides you that I will obey, Dr. Welby. The year that she graduated from OC, we had 15 people who applied for medical school. Got that? 15 people. How many got in? Every last one of them. Who else did that? I can't imagine any other school that had that happen. They were being evaluated not by us, but by the people in the medical school. Yes, we take you. I give him a lot of credit for that. Obviously, he was not the one involved in it, but he was. But the story I want to tell is really a killer. I've said several times in this class about selling bonds for the Quail Spring Church so we could keep it going and not close up. The year of my life is just awful. Darwin got interested in that. He liked to do that, and I didn't. I hated it. So he got more and more involved, and he comes to me one day and says, I've been reading about this church in northeast Oklahoma that did a bond program to build a new building, and they've got about $500,000 that they can't sell. That meant they were not going to make it. He says, let's go over there and see if we can make a deal with them and sell those bonds for them. Okay, we think we ought to do that. Coincidentally, along about this time, I'm getting real sick with diverticulitis. We go over to see these people, these elders, some of whom we knew, all of them knew us, and I've never been treated that bad. These guys, their face looks like a brick, where they're so mad. It's just red color. And finally, we fled. They said, this other company we got with, which was some of our folks, have cheated us. What's to keep you from cheating us? We're not going to get paid till we finish. Oh. Well, you said you can finish by April the 1st. How do you know you can finish by April the 1st? Because what we don't sell, we're going to buy. Oh. Well, by then things were too far along, so we fled. Elder calls me the next week and says, we owe you all an apology. Yep, you do. Because they, while they were going in the Wednesday night devotional, they put us in the office and left us there. They forgot we were Church of Christ too. That we were the same bunch of cats. And we still need to sell those bonds. Yep, you do. So I went to the hospital to have diverticulitis surgery, was there 24 days. Darwin went over to that town to sell those bonds, and it took him a week. Sold $500,000 in a week. They didn't know how that could happen, but he did. He did that. Darwin was one of the most influential people in my life for years and years. Sometimes he did really well, and sometimes he did great, sometimes he didn't. But my thing that he would say to us by way of our guardrail. When a door comes open, walk through it with courage. Whatever presents itself that you may be able to do to help out individually or collectively, do it. It may not be your specialty, and you may not be perfect at it. What happens if some of these friendships go south? And sometimes they do. It's a great bother to me that American marriage is in such awful shape. Divorce rate's getting close to 50%. And in my own family, we've got things that dishearten us, make us feel awful. Reading the elders' meetings from one time at Cail, which they had made available to the staff after they cleansed them a little bit. There was a guy there in the church that I had been kind of a booster for, trying to keep him out of trouble. He got in trouble anyway, went to the penitentiary. And I visited him in the penitentiary. He met with our elders and said, we've got to get rid of James Cail. A little shocked. I didn't know he felt that way. One of my best friends that I invested an awful lot in, we were close friends. We did all kinds of things together, especially football games. Tried to seduce 3 different women that I was involved with over some years. And it finally dawned on me, you need to wake up. He's not interested in your welfare. He's interested in using you. You need to find some other friend. In 2 Timothy 4, Paul says to Timothy, come to me soon. Demas, in love with this present age, has deserted. Sometimes friends desert us, and I need to say, in all honesty and all sadness, that may be the best learning situation that ever happens to us. Because when we look back at that, what we've had and what we have and what we wish to have is, that just won't do. The main thing that I want to leave with our thinking today is that our guardrail is loyalty. This is my bunch, and I'm sticking. Many of my friends haven't. I've been friends with a great many gifted people who, for one reason or another, and all kinds of different situations. But I'd like to propose that we make up our minds that when the door opens, it's us. One thing I learned is when a public speaker talks too long and he just all of a sudden decides to quit, it's kind of nice. So we will go. Thank you.